Angelica Schuyler, Eliza Schuyler, Peggy Schuyler.
The Schuyler sisters, beyond the stage.
In Hamilton the musical, the Schuyler sisters are thought of just rich girls, or just not as significant as Alexander Hamilton. Yet they were very influential and important and helped guarantee a win for Americans in the American Revolution. Still, Hamilton made cuts to their life. Hamilton depicts 3 out of 5 Schuyler sisters as rich girls. That's not the whole story. Angelica, Eliza, Peggy, Cornelia, and Catherine all had significant lives and can still be looked up to today, remembering them not just as rich, but also big parts in helping the United States win the American Revolution.
Our thesis is, the famous musical Hamilton, released in 2015, introduces the world to the forgotten story of the Schuyler sisters. Despite the extraordinary success of this musical phenomenon, history has yet to recognize the monumental contribution of these women in assisting and guaranteeing the success of the American Revolution.
Our project integrates the History Fair theme, Rights and Responsibilities in History, because the Schuyler sisters always stood up for their rights and women's rights. It was only discovered several years ago that they were a big helping hand in the American Revolution. Peggy, Eliza, and Angelica were all helping in order to win the Revolutionary War. Even though it was not their responsibility to help the war and contribute many ideas, we can hold them responsible for helping America win the war. Our project integrates the looking glass theme, determining what is right and wrong. Because although the Schuyler family was very rich and owned slaves, they made a huge impact on the formation of the United States we know today, including helping the United States win the American Revolutionary War.
Eliza beyond the stage. Our first piece of evidence is a letter from Alexander Hamilton to Eliza Hamilton, which proves our thesis by showing that Eliza was important to the American Revolution because Alexander took the time to write a letter to her while fighting. This is a letter from Alexander Hamilton to Eliza Hamilton, and I quote, "I have told you, and I have told you truly, that I love you too much. You engross in my thoughts too entirely to allow me to think of anything else. You are not only employing my mind all day, but you intrude upon my sleep. I meet you in every dream, and when I awake, I cannot close my eyes again, ruminating on your sweetness. It is a pretty story indeed, that I am thus monopolized by a little nut-brown maid like you, and from a statesman and a soldier, metamorphosized into a puny lover. I believe in my soul you are enchantress, but I have tried in vain, if not to break, at least to weaken the charm. You maintain your empire in spite of all my efforts, and after every new one, I make to withdraw myself from any allegiance. My partial heart still returns and clings to you with increased attachment. To drop my lover girl, you became dearer to me every moment. I am more and more unhappy and impatient under the hard. To drop my lover girl, you became dearer to me every moment. I am more and more unhappy and impatient under the hard necessities that keep me from you. And yet the prospect lengthens as I advance. This shows that Eliza Schuyler and the Schuyler sisters made an impact on the Revolutionary War, because this means that Eliza was devoted to writing to her husband and helped him with it. This also shows that even though Hamilton was in the war, he took the time to write to Eliza, invoking that she was very important to him at the Revolution.
Our second piece of evidence is a letter from Angelica Schuyler Church to Alexander Hamilton, which proves our thesis by showing that Angelica was important to the American Revolution because it shows she was involved in helping the military. This letter is from Alexander Hamilton, and I quote, "My dear brother, I have the painful task to inform you that General Hamilton was this morning wounded by that wretch Burr, and we have every reason to hope that he will recover. May I advise you that you repair immediately to my father, as perhaps he may wish to come down. My dear sister bears with saint-like fortitude this affliction. The town is in consternation, and there exists only the expression of grief and indignation. Adieu, my dear brother, remember me to Sally. Forever Yours, a church. This proves our thesis because it shows that Angelica was devoted to the military and that she made a big impact on the revolution. So she cared for General Washington and Alexander Hamilton. This letter was written after the duel with Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton. We know that Alexander eventually died after this duel, and she was devastated. This is relevant because Angelica cared about the freedom of her country, and even though she lived in France with her husband for a long time, she did eventually come back to America. She cared about everyone in the military because they were fighting for freedom. Our third and final piece of evidence is a letter from Alexander Hamilton to Peggy Schuyler, which proves our thesis by showing that Hamilton trusted Peggy because she had an important role in the war. This is from Alexander Hamilton, and I quote, "Because your sister has the talent of growing more amiable every day, or because I am a fanatic in love, or both, or if you prefer another interpretation, because I have address enough to be a good dissembler. She fancies herself the happiest woman in the world and would need to persuade all of her friends to embark with her in the matrimonial voyage. But I pray you do not let her advice have so much influence as to make you matrimony mad. 'Tis a very good thing when their stars unite two people who are fit for each other." This quote is saying that even though Eliza Schuyler is a fanatic in love, Alexander does not want her to be influenced, as he cares for her and knows that she is an important asset to independence and the Revolutionary War. It also means that this proves our thesis because it shows that Hamilton trusted Peggy, especially because General George Washington himself appointed her to become a federal spy.
Ultimately, the Schuyler sisters are very important in the American Revolution and history. But even though Hamilton has been seen by millions starring the sisters as an amazing woman, history doesn't recognize the contributions of these women. Ultimately, the Schuyler sisters were very important in the American Revolution and history, guaranteeing the success of American Revolution. Without them, we would still be colonized by Britain. It is significant that they helped the American Revolution, were involved with the military, and Peggy was in the military as a spy master. Hamilton took the time to write a letter to Eliza while she was devoted to her husband. Angelica was devoted to the military, especially her brother-in-law. Hamilton trusted Peggy as well as George Washington, which is how she became a spy master in the war. The Schuyler sisters played an essential role in formation of the United States. And yet, most have never heard of them if you haven't watched the musical Hamilton. Even though there are facts that most don't know, like how Eliza went by Betsy sometimes, we want to state that these three amazing girls helped definitely win the revolution.